already in China since the Opium Breach of 2015. Okay? In the last 2 years, major local medical institutions have had their electronic records hacked and held for ransom. Those institutions and their patients are still dealing with the repercussions of that electronic insecurity. Not long ago, a federal district judge in Atlanta judged that our ballots that we used in November don't meet election law in Georgia because of QR codes and barcodes. Because no human, at least none that I have met, could read either one of those. And that's the requirement. The barcodes are on the ballot before the vote is taken. This creates some sort of an electronic curtain that we cannot see through on the ballot counting process. And that's a problem. This is why people don't have trust in the process. 61% is a pretty big deal. I'm here today. I've been in touch with a group of people that collected over 200 signatures at the Greater Beachy Seafood Festival. And the significance of that, that represents, each of those signatures probably represents 10, as many as 100 additional voters with similar opinions about the paper ballots that need to have hand-counted paper ballots. Now the process of making that happen doesn't seem to be available to the people in Atlanta to make that happen. The references with this, there's a reference in this paper that I'd like to give you when I'm finished. It shows a training video. It shows how simple and accurate making that process happen. It requires teams of 4 people, one Democrat, Republican presumably, each of them looking at the same ballot, reading what it says, 2 tally people, and then checking the tally at the end of the batch, make sure the tallies are the same. It's not that difficult, it's much less expensive than the machines. Recently, there's been several countries, some of the poorer and less developed than the U.S. and the state of Georgia, that have hand-counted paper ballots and had results within hours of polls closing.
All right, thank you, sir.
I would like to give each of you a written copy of my comments and the references and the links on the bottom and back.
Thank you, Mr. Burns.
All right, next up is Pam Van Alstyne.
Thank you, sir.
Come up, state your name and we'll give you 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Pamela Van Alstyne. Thank you guys for letting me speak tonight. And I am here to speak about the U.S. District Court Judge Amy Totenberg and her case, Curlin versus Raffensperger, that just happened in January. On Friday, January 19th, J. Alex Halderman, who we've mentioned several times, he's an IT professor at Michigan, and he's traveled worldwide as well as US-wide. He hacked into a Dominion voting machine. The machine was actually borrowed from Fulton County. It was a legit machine. And he showed how easy it was in front of the judge and everybody in the courtroom to put a pin in the on-off switch in the back. No seals were broken. Nobody would ever know you did this. Put it in the back, and he borrowed actually the pin from the defense attorney, just so that it looked completely legitimate. And by simply inserting the pin into the on-off switch, he was able to get into safe mode. And once in safe mode, he was able to easily change the vote. He set up a fake vote, George Washington 1 and Napoleon Bonaparte 0. And he was able to easily change that vote from George Washington 1 to George Washington 0. And this is in the totals line. You don't have to do it individually. George Washington 1 to Napoleon 0. Easily, no problem. we changed it. Exactly flipped it. And by doing this, in the user mode, there is no log that's created. It's like it completely wipes everything he did away. So trying to audit this, as far as IT specials, impossible. He was able to go online, the cards that you insert when you go vote, there's 3 types. That's the voter card. Then you also have the poll worker card, and then you have the technician's card. He was able to go online and buy these cards, and he was able to buy a small piece of equipment, all online, no questions asked, where he could change anything on these cards. He was able to insert them into this piece of equipment in front of everybody in the courtroom and show how easily it was for him to go in and become a super user. And when that happened, he could do anything he wanted. Change it where it happened individually. You vote for John Doe, it went to Jane Smith. We wouldn't even know it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Christy Hayes. State your name for the record.
Good evening, gentlemen. My pleasure to once again address you on this issue. But it's time to eat humble pie and admit we made a mistake. It's time to man up, take responsibility for our actions. It's time to stop stalling, stop waiting on someone else to fix our problems. There comes a time in life to take our losses and move on. And I'm talking about these Dominion voting machines. We could probably plead ignorance in our past, but in 2019, because in 2019, we unwisely followed Raffensperger, and thousands of dollars were used to purchase these machines. We were gullible, or we were trusting, but now we're finding out these do us no service. And it's time to stop following Brad Raffensperger. He's been sued for his incompetence in running our elections. He has been running away from those who want to hold him accountable. He was a no-show both at the Georgia Senate hearings and at his most recent trial. Senate Bill 348 was recently introduced to remove him from state elections boards. And our Senator, Dr. Ben Watson, co-sponsored that. It's time to correct our error and get rid of our Dominion voting machines. They messed up multiple elections. In 2020, they were caught switching votes in Mesa County. In 2022, DeKalb County, they completely flipped the election results. In 2022, Maricopa, 20% of Dominion machines malfunctioned, messing up the elections. Over 20 computer experts agreed with this report, reaching the following conclusion. Our Georgia election system, Dominion voting machines, are the worst in the nation. Mr. Halderman, who just concluded in the Curling versus Raffensperger trial, to which Pam spoke on how we used the Bic pen to demonstrate the fallacy of these machines, or the failability, of these machines. And there are no limits to what can be done on this valid data on this machine. One of the Dominion employers, Eric Coomer, testified under oath, quote, "Our equipment is riddled with bugs, our products suck." So we're looking at the Lemon Law that was passed to protect consumers. Any defects that impair the use or causes a safety hazard. Well, we feel that these Dominion machines have caused a lot of safety in our elections. And our county lawyer, he's a smart guy. We can find a way to apply the Lemon laws to these Dominion machines and get some of our money back. But it's very important. We've got an important election coming up this year, and the good citizens of Bryan County don't want to be stuck with these 11s. These voting machines are defective and untrustworthy, and as you heard, there's many citizen residents here in the county that have no trust in them. And again, the paper ballots, they're doable. We've done them. France does them. You know, it can be done. It's what we used to do before we had all this electronics. So please consider our continued passion to get us to that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, next up is Claudia Youth. Excuse me, sir. Said, I couldn't read it. Looks like Claudia, what is it? Just come up, state your
Claudia,
name.
sir. Claudia Henne.
Claudia Youth?
Claudia,
Claudia.
Henne.
All right, great. We'll give you a.
Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. So I have this fantastic paper here presenting why paper ballots are far superior to electronic ballots. And I'm sure that nothing that's on here is new because you've heard it from everyone else, and I know that a little bit of effort went into this, but I have something that's actually a little bit more personal to me, and I think that it's gonna resonate significantly more so than all the statistics that are gonna try to woo you and tell you as to why paper ballots are superior to electronic voting machines. It's really simple. I moved to Georgia in 2017 because the Army decided to move me out here. I've loved living in Georgia ever since then. I plan on retiring out here. I absolutely love where I live. I love our location, I love our neighbors. I'm doing everything I can to basically embed myself like I take to never ever leave if possible. In 2019, my father passed away. My father never lived in Georgia. He lived in Los Angeles. He escaped from communism in the 1980s, fled to Germany. We were political refugees at one point, came to Germany and then came to America, and lived in Los Angeles our entire lives until I left for the military. My father, again, never lived in Georgia. He passed away in 2019. I moved my mom as a widow out here to Georgia. She bought a property, she's a taxpayer, she loves it out here, same thing. Her only regret in life right now is that she hadn't moved earlier. In 2020, my father received instructions and a voter pamphlet at my mom's address. Let that sink in for a second. My father, who had never registered a driver's license, never had a bill associated with his name, never had anything to do with any kind of property in Georgia, received a voter registration packet with instructions on how to fill out that machine and how to vote for this upcoming election in 2020, a year after his death. So, if you don't think that there is a problem, I am living proof telling you that, hey, listen, my family fled from communism. I have family members that were beaten. I have family members that were killed. My brother was killed when my father defected. So the threat of corrupting elections is not something that is a far-fetched idea. Like, there are people here who are living proof of what happens when these things go awry. And I am begging you to consider the consequences of what happens when you let somebody else take control over it. Because as that famous phrase goes, if you give your kids to Caesar, don't be surprised when they come home a Roman. If we're giving our election to someone else, we can't be surprised when we don't like the outcome. So I'm just asking you to really consider that and go back to paper ballots. Thank you.
Thank you. Right next to her.
All right, next up is Tom Seaman.
Good evening, gentlemen. Professor M. Thomas Seaman here. My topic is elections. Whose responsibility? Obviously, we have a big problem. We've already said that 61% of Georgians don't trust our election process. That's huge. Here's the problem. Whose responsibility is it to fix it? The counties point the finger at SOS Raffensperger. Raffensperger points the finger at the counties. The state election board points the finger at the legislature. The state legislature points the finger back at Secretary of State Raffensperger. The lawyers are looking to the state attorney general, Chris Carr. Chris Carr is looking to the courts and the judges to fix it. Nobody running Georgia's election system wants to take responsibility for this mess. So after 3 years of drama, we still have a broken election system here. So here's the big question of the day. Whose responsibility is it? I'd like to give 4 points. Number one, according to Georgia law, OCGA 21-2334, Georgia statutes give Bryan County authority over the conduct of its elections. The governor, the Secretary of State, and the state election board have all admitted in court that yes, counties have that authority and therefore that responsibility to conduct lawful and secure elections. Well, as President Truman said, the buck stops here. No more excuses. Number two, in the recent court case just finished February 1st, Curling versus Raffensperger, in closing arguments, the Georgia Secretary of State placed responsibility directly with county election officials, with the ultimate decisions, quote, regarding the lawfulness and the constitutionality of the ballots that they present to the electors in their jurisdiction. So, Secretary of State Raffensperger said again, it's up to us. Number three, OCGA 21-2-334 authorizes county election boards to use hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots if needed to conduct a legal election. Quote, if the use of voting machines wholly or in part is not practical, unquote. So I think we have, in part, there's a lot of reasons why we can say these machines are not practical. And here's another quote. If for any other reason, that's in the statement too, read that. 21-2-334. If for any other reason, paper ballots shall be printed and can be used. It's in the code. We have the authority to do this, guys. Number 4, OCGA 183-1-12-11 has an option for emergency paper ballots. Listen to this, quote. Or if emergency ballots are otherwise needed as determined by the election supervisor. It gives the election supervisor authority to decide whether we need them or not. Okay? Next quote. The determination of an emergency situation is, quote, at the discretion of the elections superintendent. Well, that's our employee. So again, it comes back to us, county, we have the authority. So summary, 3 things. Bryant County has the authority. Number 2, Georgia's voting statutes authorize us to use paper ballots for any other reason. Number 3, our election supervisor can provide paper ballots at her discretion. Let's fix our elections, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Here's a- Thank you very much.
Would anybody else like to speak during our public comment section? If not, commissioner comments, if not, we'll take a motion to go into executive session.
Yeah, I'll comment here on something that's kind of on my mind. For anyone who does not know, the correct pronunciation of Pembroke is Pembroke. And broke, B-R-O-K-E. So I just want to kind of remind everybody that we can't seem to get that right about half the time. It's been a little bit of a Facebook thing, I guess. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just want to echo Patrick's comments about the co-op project. Our public works team is phenomenal. They went down there and saved us millions of dollars on this project. Got it done much faster than we could have otherwise, and made it where we're gonna be able to get this project to fruition much, much quicker because of what they did. Thank y'all again.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we close our public meeting and enter executive session for the purpose of discussing litigation real estate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are